Hey everybody, Brad here, and having just come out of that miserable freaking cold up here where I live and probably everywhere else in this damn continent, I feel more than qualified to give you folks a first-hand experience of what these cars are like, i.e. electric vehicles or plug-in hybrid vehicles are in this freaking weather. So if you're interested in that, please stick around. Thanks so much. So as you folks can see on the dash there, it is a blistering -7 degrees Celsius up here where I live, and honestly I couldn't be happier. I'm sure the same with you folks too. Honestly, this weather, and I know it happens kind of every year, but this is pretty damn unique. Not only that, but the snow that the east has gotten and the minus 35 temperatures that the west has gotten, it's just unbelievable. And frankly, I still try to remind myself why I live up here. But anyway, all that being said, I know I made a video about this before, how do these things work in the bitter cold, specifically the Clarity that I'm driving, but I wanted to revisit that because, again, that cold front might have motivated a few of you, or demotivated a few of you, to consider buying one of these things. So off the top, I know I'm always the positive guy here. I still want to make sure that you folks realize the benefits of these cars, even despite the fact that it's so freaking cold. And absolutely, like, make no mistake, your range drops dramatically, and I no doubt the Teslas do the same thing. But all that being said, my general statement on all of this is there's such a gulf between the efficiencies, or the cost, frankly, of a gas-powered car versus an electric-powered car, that there's an awful lot of buffer there that we can eat into to still make these things worthwhile. And my experience, although miserable in the last week or so of -30, still bears that out. So yes, unfortunately, I've burned a lot more fuel than I would like to have. In fact, I put 2.5 tanks in this car. Well, 2 1/3, let's say, doing my usual city driving, my work driving, and all the rest of that. But still, I've averaged between 2.6 and my 6.0 liters per 100 kilometers, which, again, on a car this size is ridiculously cheap. And notwithstanding the electricity cost, which, again, to charge this car bottom to top is like $1.30 for me, maybe $1.50, I think, but I've never ever really drained it right out, or hardly at all. So honestly, there's so much gap there, as I say, that it's still worthwhile. And then there's all the benefits of the non-traditional car. I was downtown at a meeting on Friday, and I picked up a colleague of mine, but we both had to walk back to the car. And so while we're in the meeting, I turned on the cabin heat, and we were walking for a couple blocks in -30, and that's all it takes. And then you open the door and you get this waft of warm air when you climb into this thing. Honestly, I've frozen my butt off so much in this country, being a kid, going to university, driving my crap cars that I paid $1 for. That is worth its weight in gold. So honestly, folks, again, that's a huge benefit. No, you won't get all the EV. Like, I'm on EV now, but honestly, below -20, it's really hard to keep the ICE motor off, or the ICE off. What a little trick, though, that I found is if the car is actually warm enough and you turn off the climate control completely. Now, again, don't recommend that for long. I can actually force the car to go into straight EV mode for quite a while. So once the car was hot, I get that, kind of run it, especially when the ICE is running, you use as much of that heat as you can, and then turn it off. And then the ICE will turn off, and then I cruise down on the freeway for, I would say, 10 minutes of my 20-minute commute the other day, on pure EV. So again, that dramatically increased my efficiency for that portion. So no, I wouldn't want to do that all the time, obviously. -30 is -30. I mean, let's be real here. But the range drop with the ICE coming on, and then again the ability to kind of play around with it a little bit, just makes it still perfectly viable and perfectly feasible to have a car like this. And you get all those other benefits, again, of having a car that's, I call, half electric, even though it's not quite that. I just can't, again, I would never think that any of this massive cold snap is any reason not to get one. I do look forward to one day owning a Tesla, and then obviously having the same experience. And I'm sure even if your range drops by half, again, there's so much efficiency built in that, yeah, it's a pain. And yeah, you still, where I live, there aren't an awful lot of chargers, but you can live with that. Plus you can charge at home for, where I go, it's 9 cents a kilowatt hour. So honestly, you couldn't be beat. So yes, an inconvenience, but honestly, being able to preheat the cabin and driving cars that were pathetic in the winter, no matter what, they got poor fuel economy all the time, this thing is still golden as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I'm ever the optimist, like you've always heard me say, but even in that weather, these things are great. And specifically the clarity, again, for all the features I've mentioned, no, it's not all-wheel drive, and yes, winter tires are a must, especially when it gets so sheer ice that it's ridiculous. But again, this car has ABS and the traction control. I turn it off to have a little fun. I will never say you can drift a front-wheel drive car, but I've been able to hang the tail out by trail braking into a corner, and then not really a very professional Scandinavian flick, but I've got the tail out and been able to do a bit of that. If I get some clear road here, I might actually try it just to show you folks. Anyway, again, other drawbacks about this car in the winter, you know, it's just like any other typical car. But again, with the electric heat, it's light years ahead of any internal combustion motor that I've ever had. No heated steering wheel, obviously that's almost a must maybe for us people that live where it's like this for a while. But again, the cabin preheat is a dream come true, frankly, for someone who's frozen their butt off, like I say, for so long. Anyway, maybe I'll leave it there. I have a couple other interesting features that I've added to the car, maybe we'll say. No, that's not right. What I'll do is I'll cut this off earlier. So my apologies, folks. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching, and if you could do me a big favor and click that subscribe button. I'm getting kind of close to another milestone that I'd love to hit. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, all the best in 2020, folks. We'll see you soon.